Hey, welcome to Bada Boom. Thank you, Christine, again for joining me here today to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is DandaDan. I
Oh my
know
God.
you have so many thoughts. I hadn't started watching it at a certain point, and you were like, you have to start watching this. You yelled at the TV numerous times. A ton of people I know are talking about this. I actually just got off Threads because there's a huge debate about Kaiju number eight and DandaDan, which one's better and why. But you love DandaDan so much. So, what were your thoughts on the first 12 episodes that we got to see of DandaDan?
I started reading the manga because I needed more plot. And actually, the what's so funny, especially because of how you and I met, another customer was the reason I started watching DandaDan. He came
Hmm.
in, big anime guy. Honestly, your guys' energy would have been crazy. But like, he was just like, y'all need to watch and or read DandaDan because it is really good. And he just kept preaching his gospel. And he won me over because David and Nick were already watching it too. And I was like, I gotta. And I dived in, and now I'm obsessed. And now I'm reading the manga on I think it's Shonen Jump because it's like $3 a month for me to catch up on what I want to catch up on and not be absolutely blue balled where it left off. Because I screamed. I literally screamed. I was like, ah, and that was it.
Which, if you haven't watched it, we're gonna not spoil it for you, but there's a huge cliffhanger for how the season wraps up, how it ends. But I have to say, I thought about this, and I think Netflix just does this with their animes because they're like, we need to keep you subscribed, so we're gonna make sure we end this on like a really like big cliffhanger. But also, just most animes in general, I feel like the episodes are tailored to where like each episode's like 20, 23 minutes long, maybe, if you take out the theme songs and stuff like that. And so I feel like what we would consider a normal Saturday morning cartoon like length of episode. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do that in 15 minutes. And then the last eight is gonna be half of the next episode so that there's a cliffhanger. And like almost every episode that I've watched of something on Netflix that's like an anime or it's a manga adaptation into an anime, they do that
Mhm.
kind of format to kind of get you to be like, oh, I've got to watch the next one. They keep you watching.
It's
So
so good though. It works. Like I will admit defeat to it because it works. Because I literally was like, okay, what a way to end. Now I have to read it. Like right now in the manga, I'm like maybe 3 or 4 episodes inward to the show, comparing where it lands. But I was just like, at this pace, I will like completely surpass maybe like 2 or 3 seasons if I keep reading at the pace I'm going. And I'm like, okay, it's really good both ends. Is I can see how it was animated well to begin with, based on the manga. I feel like I did the same thing with Chainsaw Man, where I ended up reading the manga and ended up being really great. But what really works is that format because I am hooked. I'm chomping at the bit at work on a Thursday, going, okay, Creature Commandos, and it's Dandadan. And I'm like, I need to watch Dandadan. Whoever's in charge of their like scheduling and formatting, they need a raise because it works, and I will attest to it. And I'm pretty sure everyone on the internet can attest to that.
I think you're right. I won't get into the Kaiju number eight and DandaDan war that's kind of been going on. A lot of people that have seen DandaDan are starting to watch Kaiju number eight. I
Mhm.
saw Kaiju number eight like right when it came out and thought this is amazing. It's a show not about teenagers. It's about someone like 29 about to turn 30 and they're like, it's my last shot at like doing what I actually want to do with my life. And then the dude turns into a kaiju. Very similar to kind of like how, yeah, I know now you're hooked, but
I
some similar
might.
some similarities to kind of like how it is uh for Ken and Dan to Dan. But and Dan Dan is more like Danny Phantom, and Kaiji number eight is a little bit more, Ben 10-ish like. Those are some loose similarities I'm drawing, but as soon as someone was like, "Hey, what's DandaDan?" I kind of just like threw out, "It's Danny Phantom," but like a little bit more modern. And I think that got someone that had no idea about anime or anything going in it. I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll check that out." But that's the only thing that I kind of drew from the show before I actually dove deeper into it. So when they were like, "By the way, there's aliens in this," I was like, who was so creative enough to be like, let's throw ghosts and demons and aliens into one show? And I realized that halfway, I think through like the first or second episodes, I was like, this is not right. They're not following the rules for these lores. And then I realized, you know what? That doesn't matter. That's how we get new shows. They say, well, what if we change this? Or what if we do this? And that's also how you get people to argue on the internet and create more buzz for a show, is if they
Literally.
create new lore or bring two things you didn't think worked well together and bring it together. And that's DandaDan.
Or you can call it DandaDan Me Phantom. You know, where
Oh, Dandy Phantom. Is he going
but yeah,
ghost?
honestly, it's funny that you make that connection because it really does have that connection. But I also thought when I was watching it, I was like, every supernatural paranormal podcast is like their content is now within the realm of an anime, and you're kind of bridging that gap between like anime and podcast. There are supernatural animes, but not like I feel like not to this like immediate scale of success because I feel like DandaDan came out of nowhere and has exploded all over. Maybe it's because my feeds are like connected to it now, but like it just came out of nowhere, hit the ground running, and was like, yeah, we're gonna mix these two crazy things, make you love it, and now you're gonna buy all of our merch and you're gonna wait every week for the episodes, and it really did work.
It really did work pretty well. And I have to say, I am excited and looking towards new episodes, especially because the cliffhangers that they've got
Yeah,
going for it. But I haven't read the manga. Uh, I don't think I'm going to read the manga.
you
Uh,
don't have to.
well, and that's exactly fine. But my biggest thing that like again like I'm gonna go back to the arguments I've seen online between Kaiji number eight and DandaDan is, and it's not a Kaiji number eight podcast episode, it was a DandaDan podcast episode, but I after I watched Kaiju number eight, like two or three episodes, I was like, I need to read the manga. But for DandaDan, maybe it's because I watched so many episodes back to back. I was just like, I don't need to read the manga. I'll just, watch it. I don't need to read it. I can just watch it. It wasn't like that pressure to feel like I have to know what's going on next. It's a good show, but like, I'm okay with time in between episodes. I'm not like tied or glued to it, or like it doesn't have like a firm grasp on me as I think Kaiji number eight did, because I feel like this was more, I dare I say, like a teenager kid show. But like
Yeah,
half of the shows I think people like love and watch, it's like they're about teenagers or about people that are younger than them because they want to go back and relive those parts of their lives. And so it's like maybe I just can't relate to those teenagers. Maybe I wasn't that as awkward as that guy was. And I wasn't that awkward. I was awkward, but not that
I
awkward.
was gonna say like you must be lucky to not be awkward as a teenager.
Okay, I don't think teenagers are that self-aware to say I'm an awkward teenager. Um, I actually was, because my handle back in the day was awkward Troy. So yeah, it's no longer that. You can't find that anywhere, but that was like a nickname I had when I was like working places, was awkward Troy. So
That's that's humbling.
I
Awkward
didn't give
Troy.
myself that nickname. Someone else gave me
Was it
that
like
nickname.
XX awkward Troy XX 6969?
Oh yeah, no. I knew well enough never to put 69 in a gamer tag or anything like that. I was like, that's just telling people you're lonely. But
I don't know. It just looks like Pisces to me.
oh, see, if I had been to astrology at the time, I would have made, you could have connected the dots for people that wanted to call me out. But
No, but you were just awkward.
yeah, I was just awkward. I'm not as awkward now. But it's still a good show. And despite the cliffhangers, I'm excited to see where it goes, especially uh I didn't watch the episode that came out. Was the episode that came out yesterday? Was that the one where the cliffhanger ends at the house and or is another one that came out today?
Okay, so I was told the one, I don't want to give context, but the one where it was they had traveled
Yes, that's the last
and there was
episode.
the spa.
Yes, okay, that's the most recent episode. Yes, okay, that's the
Yeah.
one where it cuts off. That's the cliffhanger one. what do you've read the manga, so you obviously have an idea of what's going to happen next. So I have there's no way I can ask you, hey, what's going to happen next? Because you already know.
Well,
But
I mean, I'm doing it slowly because when I was, it's the same feeling I had with Chainsaw Man, where I was like, I'm gonna start from the very beginning to the point where like it's just me reading what I saw on the show to catch any differences. So far, kind of close to each other. I'm at the part because I don't want to like spoil it for anyone who hasn't actually fully watched the show, but we just got to the part where they're like gonna raise, like in the manga wise. But right now it's so far it's been pretty close. I think the only thing that I got interested in is like when the action scenes happen, what parts do they draw? And yeah, a lot of the choices they chose to like have in the panels worked beautifully, and I feel like it only like got better when it got animated. So right now I can tell you that if you are thinking about reading the manga, like any viewers or anything, like it is definitely worth looking at it at an artistic like comic book layout, and then seeing it animated because right now between DandaDan and Chainsaw Man they do it so beautifully that like either way you go reading, watching, or both, it you end up enjoying it, and if you do both you're enjoying it twice as much.
nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
I have not started to read it. I don't know what my predictions are going to be for the show or for the next
Mhm.
episodes. I am a little salty that what's her name? Is it Ari, the girl with pink hair? That she like now has ghost powers because her aura was like transferred from
The
the
Silky.
the Silky. And I'm like, wow, that just like ties up perfectly. I would have rather this character just been like super annoying and never got to be on any adventures. And
But that's how you get plot annoying characters that get overpowered,
and
and oh,
maybe and
the
there's
best.
character development there. And I
Mhm.
do like Gigi. I didn't think I was gonna like him like when he first kind of showed up, but like as they spent more time with him, I'm like, okay, Gigi's the fun, nice guy that will hopefully bring Okurun out of his shell, and we'll see how that turns out. But I like Gigi more than I like Ari, and if they end up like getting together and doing their own thing, that's fine with me because I don't like Ari at the moment. She just seems like too coincidental to like be a part of the team.
I I think okay, so I think when Gigi showed up, I was like, ooh, love triangle. Oh my God. Because like
But
Momo was
wouldn't that be
already
like a love
feeling,
square because like
I mean, I
or
guess
Pentagon
technically.
because isn't like Ari and uh Ken
Okarun?
and or Okaru and Miss what's her fucking
I
name?
say
Yeah, Miss Ice. They're kind of like in a triangle. And if you add Ken, that's
Gigi.
or Gigi, it's a what is that like a diamond or
So it's
a
like
square? Or is it like a
Silky Girl and Okarun, and she likes him, but he likes Momo. And
it's like
Momo
another
likes Okarun, but Gigi, he thinks that Gigi has a better shot with Momo, even though she's definitely like
this is
focusing on
it's so high
Ken.
school.
But I think that's another reason why I liked it is like not to like feel like I want to relive teenage years because I've already like spoken to enough people, including my therapist, that they all agree that my teen years were the absolute worst years of my life. Um, but like reliving through like the awkward idea of overthinking because I was telling another person this that puberty has this way of putting your thought process into overdrive in like the negative space where
Mm.
you're overthinking things, and when you're an adult you're like that was stupid. I feel like the idea of overthinking as a teenager, which is like a prime quality of being a teenager, is just like they're saturated in it and they have powers, so the overthinking gets like tenfold powerful and affects them in a way where their lives can be mortally in danger because they're overthinking a situation. And I'm just like, watching someone else burn out on overthinking, even if they're fictional, it's like chef kiss. Like I don't have to suffer, but I get to watch someone suffer. So good.
Yeah, and I think like as we grew older, we probably realized, oh, the world is bigger. There are worse things like taxes and paying bills. And as we see these characters, they already had a frantic moment about, I don't have enough school uniforms and like it costs money and stuff. Like, some of those things become more adult and more relatable. They were like, oh, okay, you get it. It's a bigger world. And like, I can feel better about the world that I live into because the characters I kind of empathized with are also now realizing, oh, crap, there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there I got to worry about too. So
Yeah.
we'll see what's in store for DandaDan / Danny Phantom. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you guys think about DandaDan. What do you think is going to happen next if you're reading the manga? And with that, bada boom.
Bada boom.
Thank you for listening to the Bob Boom Podcast. Keep the conversation going with Chris and I on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can find us on all these places at Bada Boom Podcast. Get into the comments on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you like about the show or what you'd like to hear from us in the future. Until next time, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thanks for listening.